Not issues related to poverty. System is not set up to protect you or to support you. Yeah, surprise, surprise. It in fact kicks you when you're down. And I know because I've got enough mental health in my family to know what people who end up not having support systems go through and how they are harassed. And so this issue, there's also an issue here of systemic racism that's going on. So the role of a leader, particularly a mayor, is to work with all of the city councillors to take a really good hard look at how we are perpetuating those systems of racism, those systems of misogyny, those systems of economic separation. Thank you. It is a war on the poor. And it is the war on the disenfranchised and the war on the marginalized. And so how do we deal with that? We name it. We start to frame the problem and we go at it. Jean has identified a whole series of solutions. I think that there are many solutions that come when you start talking with groups of people that know the reality of what it is on the receiving end of that systemic marginalization. And that's the starting point, but we don't need a lot more studies about this community. God knows there's been a lot of studies of this community. How loud have you been in terms of the solutions that are before us? And that's the starting point. Housing is a starting point, so is treatment, so is dealing with trauma, but there's also the issue of police brutality. And that's an issue of sitting down and understanding deeply what's going on. WISH does not have another liaison for policing. Once the woman that is currently there resigns, there's nobody there in place. So how do we deal with that? Thank you.
So, that got really loud really fast. So, some of you have known me for a while, and you know that I wasn't always like a suit-wearing guy. And, you know, when I was younger and skinnier and poorer, I used to get hassled by the police down here all the time. And now, cops see me on the street and they're like, oh, hey, Pete, how's it going? So I know it's like a privilege, right, that I'm now experiencing. But I get that had I been a couple of shades darker or in a different context, I wouldn't be experiencing that privilege. So I think when we talk about police interaction, especially in the downtown east side, we really need to invest in some deep kind of cultural sensitivity training so that we have a better understanding. And I think that involves working with the community and actually getting to the root of some of the issues. And, you know, I think it is possible. I mean, I've met, and I'm sure a lot of you have met, there are good cops down here. There are some people who really do care. And we need to nurture that good behavior and really work on it together. And I will say that that sensitivity training has to start with decriminalizing drugs and really taking an approach that does not scare people away from harm reduction and really investing in harm reduction as part of policing. And I do think that, to Jean's point, I think better civilian oversight on the police board is a must. There's a second part to that original question that I kind of heard though too, and that's about surveillance. And I think at the root of that is when we talk about modifying our single resident accommodation bylaws, it needs to be, you know, fixing those rates or those rents to shelter rates and something that's affordable so that we don't get these kind of hipster hotel conversions that we see with a lot of the SROs. But we also need to look at how we treat residents, because as a lot of you will know, SRO residents don't have the same rights as a regular homeowner or a renter. And we see all the kind of surveillance that goes on and the restrictions on who you can bring to your room and when you can go into your room and in and out. That's totally inappropriate. That's not a way for homes to be operated. So we need to look at that as well, and that's part of that sort of surveillance equation that you mentioned.
It's an interesting question to deal with police. I've learned a lot here. RJ's spouse, Gary, actually came out to a workshop for our non-Aboriginal families about what's happening with Aboriginal families. And I had no idea that the Indian Act actually makes it so that every incarcerated First Nations person triggers more transfer money from the feds to the province. There's no incentive right now in the system, the way it's built, to change. You know, it's funny in Strathcona, I can call the cops, they'll show up in 30 seconds. We have other people who are single moms, they're marginalized, they'll call and no one will show up. There's profiling going on. And it was terrifying to this mom that came to me because I was in the back and she says, you know, my neighbor downstairs pepper sprayed me. I'm scared. And the cops won't show up. So I said, next time that happens, call me. I'll show up, I'll call the cops, and we'll see what happens. It's funny because, you know, I don't dress like this all the time. So in Strathcona, when I'm wearing my baseball cap, my Mac jacket, I actually had my kids strapped to my back. I was walking out to Chinatown to buy some food. And there was an assault. And it was called in. Cops came, and they yelled at me, "You the guy that beat someone up?" I got my kids strapped on my back. I'm like, what are you thinking? But it's because I was dressed with this cap and a Mac jacket. And I looked like I was a rabble rouser. That needs to end. I'm sorry, but this culture of discrimination needs to end. The police report to the mayor. The mayor has a duty to change the thinking, and if it takes getting rid of people, I have no problem with that. In Strathcona, I know some people say, I don't work well with people. It's not true. It's two sides to every story. I don't work well with people that are discriminatory, that create a problem in unity within the community. So I have no problem ending this. Thank you.
So questions around the police, I think, fundamentally revolve around this idea around justice. And so justice is around the idea of balance, right? And so when I think about justice, I don't think it's just for the police to confiscate an opioid replacement program. I don't think it's just the police actively target folks of color or trans individuals or Indigenous folks when they're carding. And I think those practices need to end and need to stop right now. And I don't think it's fair also when it comes to the city itself around bylaw enforcement. We've written about this in one city around people being ticketed for living in their cars. How is this justice? How is this serving the city? How is this serving folks who are living in their cars, still have jobs, but have nowhere to live, and they're saying, you know what, you're not our version of homeless, so here's a ticket. Because someone else wants a parking spot. And that has to end. The city can't keep going on like this. And so when it comes to this, I think I agree with a lot of folks on this panel around oversight of the police, around how do we actually change the board, the systemic view of the police as well. We also are advocating for true sanctuary cities, so ending any collaboration between the police department and Canadian Border Services. And also taking that further into our schools as well, a sanctuary schools policy that we're working on currently as well. And so those are some of the policy pieces on our website that we're working on, and I'll leave it at that, and I'll pass the mic.
Thank you all. Now, the next section is on one-word answer.
Yes.
Okay, and
everything can be solved.
here's the first question. We live in a time of austerity, where funding towards social programs in the downtown east side that people use and need are cut while the budget for the police increases. Will you work towards reallocating the Vancouver Police Department budget towards building low-income social housing programs we need? I assume you all agree. Next question. The downtown east side community has been fighting for an Aboriginal healing and wellness center since the downtown east side local area plan committee called in the city and Vancouver Coastal Health to build it in 2014. If elected, will you expedite this project? So can I get you actually to answer the question as a the downtown east side community has been fighting for an Aboriginal healing and wellness center since the downtown east side local area plan. And it called this, since the local area plan committee called on the city and Vancouver Coastal Health to build it. This is in 2014. If elected, would you expedite this project? So can I just...
Yes, we will build the healing center.
Yes.
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 Hey, how about the police budget? How about the first question?
Okay, sorry, we start with the police budget.
All right, we'll finish this round and then we'll come back to your.
It's going to give me 10 minutes
Partnership.
at the end.
Yes.
Yes to both of those questions.
Yes.
Yes. Yes to both.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you then answer the police question?
Can you just repeat the question?
Will I allocate the police budget to affordable housing?
Let me rephrase the question. We live in a time of austerity where funding towards social programs in the downtown east side that people use and need are cut, while the budget for police increases. Will you work towards reallocating the Vancouver Police Department budget towards building low-income social housing programs that we need here?
No. Yes.
Yes. I'll build low-income social housing.
One word.
Complicated.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
If that's my choice, no.
Okay. Third, bylaw section 23.8 states that when a building does not comply with standards, City Council should order the landlord to remedy concerns. And if landlord fails to do so within 60 days of the order, the city will carry out the work at the owner's expense.
I went through that.
If the city enforced section 2.3.8, we won't have lost the Balmoral and the Regent Hotel. And the question to you is, if you are elected, will you enforce section 23.8 immediately?
Yes.
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 Renovate, expropriate.
Yes. Yes.
One word.
Yes.
Yes.
And if elected, will you support Cognizant Society proposal to build 100% rental housing on Cognizant block?
Undecided.
Don't know.
Yes.
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 Lama, is it 100% social housing? Yes.
With community facilities and stores, right? And social housing, yeah.
Yes.
Consultation.
To end homelessness, we need at least 10 sites of welfare pension rate social housing with about 100 to 150 units on each site. There are at least 6 sites in the downtown east side that the city already owns and will be suitable for social housing. If elected, will you commit to building 100% welfare pension rate housing at those city-owned sites and work towards purchasing new sites in the downtown east side to meet the urgent need for housing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I want to say yes.
Citywide.
Yes.
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 if elected, would you decriminalize 10 cities as they provide a temporary solution for a serious housing crisis?
Build housing.
That's not an answer, man. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Gordon Pivot legal, they're already legal, so yes.
Yes, and I would really love an opportunity to talk more about this, but yes, but I have so much more to say about that.
Yes, and provide facilities like porta potties and washing stations and food.
Yes. Already have a plan? Yes.
Thank you all. The next question is going to come from Our Homes Can't Wait.
Hey, so do you guys know about 58 West Hastings?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Okay. All right. So just to give a little background for people that don't know, in 2016, Mayor Gregor Robertson signed a contract in this room to build 100% welfare and pension rate housing, community-controlled housing at 58 West Hastings. That was 2 years ago. Hello? Okay. And this has been a fight that we've been fighting for 10 years now. And the city just released a development application for 1/3 of that. That's 70 units of the 230 promised at welfare and pension rates. The rest will be market rate rentals. And we just want to know, here, Laura.
We want to know if what we've been fighting for the past, 10 years basically, for that site at 100% welfare pension rates. With the guarantee what the mayor said when he promised that it would be, and now it's being cut to like just 1/3, which is like, it's not even like a dent to half the people that live downtown, and then who's going to profit from, like, who's going to be able to get that? Like, how are you going to set up the people as to who's going to be living in there? Like, everybody is at the same level of where they need that housing, they need a place to live. Like, for them to have some kind of dignity for themselves too, it's just like they need a home. They need a roof over their head, someplace that they know they can lay their head down without worrying about whether they're going to get their stuff stolen or somebody's going to come there and harass them and stuff. Like, you know, it's just unnecessary bullshit, that is. Sorry, I just kind of like fly with it. But yeah, and I've seen this. Like, you know, I've been downtown. I've been where I wasn't able to make it to shelter, and I would go sleep at Oppenheimer. I had no tent, no blankets, and I just slept out there. I had my clothes that I used to cover myself up, and that's that. You know, was that even safe for me to even be out there? Like, with everybody's like, you know, you don't know who's out there. So it's just like we need that 58 West Hastings at 100%, nothing else. At least that would be a start for some of the people down here to start, like, you know, building themselves, their self-esteem to, like, you know, I've met a lot of people that are well-educated down here, but no fault of their own why they became addicted, and then the homelessness has just gone crazy. So,
Thanks, Laura. So, politicians reneging on their promises is nothing new. There's nothing I've never promised that I've reneged on. My work with the Squamish Nation is a testament to everything that I've ever promised and I've carried through, despite the harm it did to my career, I pushed through. Yes, there'll be 100% commitment to whatever Greg Robertson did for the, is it 100 units? 230 units. We're going further. Your t-shirt there, rent freeze now, I completely disagree. Rent lower now. Rent lower now, not rent freeze. They've got to go down.
Decrease rent.
Sorry?
Decrease rent.
Decrease.
Decrease.
Okay. So we're going to 400, 900, and 1,300. That is affordable. 400, 900, 1,300. That is affordable. Rent freeze now? No. Rent decrease now. Thank you, Roller Girl.
Right.
Rent decrease. Now. That's
Vote
what we're
for
about.
Roller Girl.
Yes, so 100% social housing at the affordable rate that you were saying at 58 West Hastings is reasonable. It was promised and it should be delivered. And that's what I would do as mayor.
However, I have a much larger plan for the city that I've been working on. You know, as an expert, a housing policy expert, I've been working on housing policy all around the world. I have committed to delivering 25,000 affordable housing units across the city over the next 10 years. And that would be for households making $80,000 or under. There would be, but much of that would include social housing as well, whether it's in co-ops or delivered by nonprofits. It would be built on city land. There's already 20 lots around the city that have been identified that can be immediately built on. That's already in the plan. So 25,000 units over 10 years. That's the pledge. 58 West Hastings for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm part of the Our Homes Can't Wait coalition, and I totally support the Our Homes Can't Wait demand for 100% welfare, pension rate, social housing, and 58 West Hastings, and so does all of COPE, including Ann Roberts and Derek O'Keefe. And yesterday, COPE put out a news release that says, if we are elected at the first council meeting on November 13, we'll put forward a motion that the staff report back with at least 3 options for sources of revenue for 58 West Hastings to meet the former mayor's commitments. And that the mayor consult with Our Homes Can't Wait to propose how the mayor's commitment that housing be controlled by the community be implemented. So we're totally committed to that. It's in writing. We also have a plan to end homelessness by getting revenue from the mansion tax. Over about 200 million a year. That could end homelessness in 1 year with regular housing. After that first year, we would go on and build lots of social housing, starting with the lowest income, building up so that renters who can't afford rent can afford nice social non-market housing. We're not really into condos. We want to get housing out of the market like it is in Vienna, where 60% of housing. And we want a rent freeze or a decrease if necessary. But if the province won't give us a rent freeze, we want to use city powers to do as much of that as we can.
This is video.
Already talking with lawyers, we know how we should do some freezing with a tenant protection and relocation plan to prevent people from being evicted. If you want a rent freeze, if you want to end homelessness in a year, there's 7 people you can vote for that are guaranteed to work tooth and nail to do that, and that's all the 7 that have COPE after their name.
Thanks. And going back to the question that you were asking, if it wasn't for Jean after the COPE debate, I wouldn't have understood the issues. I want to thank Jean for really helping me understand the question I keep coming up, and this is where I want to have a conversation with those elected on city council that are taking leadership on this, is are there any supports at all? So if you had seniors in that, would you have supports for them within that, or is it support free? So that's a question that comes later, but those are the kind of questions I would have around the kind of housing. Absolutely at the level of welfare and disability. That seems to be a no-brainer. And I've already made a commitment in my platform to 2,800 more units, and really to get at those that are invisible and homeless. Even though our homeless rate is only at 2,100, I think there's a lot of people who are invisible in that count. So that's why the numbers are higher. What I'm interested in doing as a mayor, and I put all my platforms out there so you can see them, I did it almost 6 weeks ago, is to support the council members in the work that they come to council to do. You need a mayor that is there and can work across the political spectrum, that is going to respect each of the council members that are elected to do the work that they were elected to do by the constituents they were elected to do. And that's the role that I want to take as a mayor, is to support the